the Nation.
State of the Nation with Edmond, Obilo.
Alright, still State of the Nation. Femi Olanipekun is my name here, standing in for Edmond, Obilo. When you listen there to President Muhammadu Buhari at the 72nd session of the United Nations General Assembly, also weighing in on the matter, well, the race, we're getting closer to it anyway, the nuclear standoff, also weighing in, calling for a denuclearization of the world. Well, United States President Donald Trump has issued a new order that boosts sanctions against North Korea over its nuclear weapons program. The order empowers the Treasury Department to slam firms and financial institutions conducting businesses with North Korea. The U.S., since 2008, has been freezing the assets of individuals and companies linked to the North Korea's nuclear program, as well as banning the exports of goods and services to the country. About 2 weeks ago, the United Nations tightened sanctions against the country over its 3rd September nuclear test. The latest UN sanctions restrict oil imports and ban textile exports in an attempt to starve it of fuel and income for its weapon programs. It is the 9th round of UN sanctions to hit North Korea since 2006. And 3 days after the UN sanctions were approved, Pyongyang fired off a second ballistic missile over Japan, showing a tremendous improvement on the range of its missiles. So in spite of all of the sanctions, the 9th one by United Nations, several other ones by United States and other Western powers, North Korea seems to be forging ahead and covering lots of ground in efforts to have a nuclear weapon. As North Korea remains resolute, Donald Trump last week at the United Nations swore to totally destroy the country if it became a threat to the United States and its allies.
The scourge of our planet today is a small group of rogue regimes that violate every principle on which the United Nations is based. They respect neither their own citizens nor the sovereign rights of their countries. If the righteous many do not confront the wicked few, then evil will triumph. When decent people and nations become bystanders to history, the forces of destruction only gather power and strength. No one has shown more contempt for other nations and for the well-being of their own people than the depraved regime in North Korea. It is responsible for the starvation deaths of millions of North Koreans and for the imprisonment, torture, killing, and oppression of countless more. We were all witness to the regime's deadly abuse when an innocent American college student, Otto Warmbier, was returned to America only to die a few days later. We saw it in the assassination of the dictator's brother using banned nerve agents in an international airport. We know it kidnapped a sweet 13-year-old Japanese girl from a beach in her own country to enslave her as a language tutor for North Korea's spies. If this is not twisted enough, now North Korea's reckless pursuit of nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles threatens the entire world with unthinkable loss of human life. It is an outrage that some nations would not only trade with such a regime, but would arm, supply, and financially support a country that imperils the world with nuclear conflict. No nation on earth has an interest in seeing this band of criminals arm itself with nuclear weapons and missiles. The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself and for his regime. The United States is ready, willing, and able, but hopefully this will not be necessary. That's what the United Nations is all about. That's what the United Nations is for. Let's see how they do. It is time for North Korea to realize that the denuclearization is its only acceptable future.
All right, President Donald Trump of the United States, there at the 72nd session of the United Nations General Assembly. Well, you need to check his choice of words there. The righteous many, apparently that is Trump and France, United States and other Western powers, and the wicked few are Kim Jong-un. You're talking about Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. You're talking about Bashar al-Assad of Syria, and others who are not particularly favorable to the Western world. Well, there was a reply to that particular speech at the United Nations General Assembly. In a reply, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un vowed to make Trump pay dearly for his speech. He referred to Trump as a mentally deranged and said he is more than ever convinced to continue on his path to a nuclear power North Korea. Now, Russia, through its foreign minister Sergei Lavrov, has warned that the United Nations military history are saying that warning the United Nations that the military history over the North Korea's nuclear testing would lead to disaster. And on its part, China, through its foreign minister Wang Yi, cautioned Pyongyang from towing a dangerous direction. What it said was a dangerous direction, insisting that there should be no new nuclear weapons on the Korean peninsula. Now, questions have been raised as to how the North Korea's missile program has improved so rapidly in spite of all of the sanctions against it. There are suggestions that it may have acquired high-performance liquid propellant engines from illicit networks in Russia and Ukraine. American military intelligence now believes that North Korea has now also successfully miniaturized a nuclear warhead to fit inside a missile. And North Korea's September 3 nuclear test was by far the biggest of 6 nuclear tests carried out since 2006. And North Korea claims that this test was its first thermonuclear weapon, that is, the most potent form of nuclear weapon. Pyongyang started its nuclear program in the 1980s. Its first nuclear test was held in 2006. Count the years. From 1980, the early 80s, and the first nuclear test was held in 2006. Mind you, North Korea has the world's 4th largest standing army. It has the world's 4th largest standing army. It has a standing army of more than 1 million soldiers and an estimated reserves of some 5 million. It also has around 200,000 special forces troops. So to check the military aggression of North Korea against South Korea, the United States has had a military presence on the Korean peninsula since the Korean War, boasting the 3rd highest deployment of American troops anywhere in the world. The role of Russia and that of China in checking the nuclear ambition of North Korea is critical to the avoidance of a nuclear war. And like President Buhari said at the UN, the present tension is bringing the world closer to the brink of a nuclear war. The last time the world reached this level of tension was during the Cuban Missile Crisis of 1962. The 2 superpowers then, the United States and Soviet Union, almost came head to head over the Soviet Union installation of nuclear facilities in Cuba. The J.F. Kennedy government succeeded in making the Soviet Union beat a retreat when it became clear that the U.S. was not going to accept a nuclear Cuba. The world is safer without nuclear weapons. The world must not see another Hiroshima or another Nagasaki. Well, let's open the phone lines for you now. Let's get your own beats on this matter. What this nuclear war standoff, as it were, that we seem to be moving closer to by the day, in spite of all of the sanctions against North Korea and also even Iran. Some of these countries have moved on, and like said earlier on, it seems that the rules are different from some countries and different for the others. How do we move on, forge ahead, without reaching that particular tipping point? Well, the last time we had this kind of tension was the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. We open the phone lines for you right now. The numbers to call 0703 175 9177, 0703 175 9177, and 0902 427 3808, 0902 427 3808. You can also call 0905 648 7177, 0905 648 7177. And to drop your messages on WhatsApp, use the line 0703 175 9173, 0703 175 9173. You can also get across to us on our social media platforms, on Twitter at Rave 917 FM, and at same for Facebook at Rave 917 FM. Let's take the first call here. Hello, good afternoon. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Osogbo.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, my own contribution is in this way. You know, this world is turning to something else. You know, the superpower, they want to dominate the whole world. The country of the world should sign a memorandum, a kind of understanding that they should stop deployment of nuclear weapons. Only U.S. and some superpower refuse to sign that too. While other countries too, they want to, in their own sense, they want a kind of deterrent so that anybody will not just come and harm their countries. Everybody should be allowed to have this nuclear weapon, or we should eradicate this nuclear weapon entirely throughout the world.
You're saying everyone should be allowed to have a nuclear weapon?
Nuclear weapon.
Won't that be a recipe for disaster?
Or else, all over the world, entire country of the world should stop deployment of a nuclear weapon, so that anybody who want to, in the situation where the United States will go to Syria, will go to Iraq and destabilize the country, but the other man from the North Korea will look at the EU and said, okay, if the United States can do that kind of thing to those countries because they don't have a nuclear weapon, why don't I have my own, so that it will serve as deterrent to US, so that they will not attack the countries.
All right. That's
my own suggestion. If in a situation like this, let other countries have their own nuclear weapon, or we should allow the entire stop deployment of a nuclear weapon.
Thank you very much for your insightful contribution, Taiwo. All right. Hello. Good morning. Good afternoon. Hello. Thank you very much for joining us. What's the name? Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Osogbo.
Kunle from Osogbo. Thank you for joining us. Okay, Allah.
What I want to, I really appreciate your something. But what I want to really say is that the way the world is going right now, the world is going to a nuclear war, and the third world war is coming to a kind of real.
We pray.
And thereby a world power will lose. Hello.
I said we pray. Doesn't
so that
materialize.
a world power. Yes. So that a world power will lose is a ring that will go on that world power. That's what is happening now. You see what is happening now? And the US, the world power that people respect has to be a kind of, has to have a lot of caution. When a superpower is threatening a small nation like North Korea, you understand? And the China on the other hand, and the Russia on the other hand, they are telling US that you should have special caution in the issue of in North Korea. It means if there is a war between USA and North Korea now, it is like a possibility of support for North Korea from China and Russia. Remember, the two countries are a nuclear power also, like USA. You understand? And the other countries, they are trying to beat their nuclear power. It's not because of they want to destroy other countries. Like Iran, they are talking about Iran. Iran and some other countries, they are trying to do that as a deterrent. Remember what happened to Gaddafi in Libya? Remember what happened to Saddam Hussein of Iraq? Where the world, the USA and co, they said Saddam Hussein is developing a weapons of mass destruction. You know the story. And just because they don't like this guy, but they come up with that false story. And before you know it, they attack the Saddam regime, they destroy the regime, they looted the library, the archive in Iraq. You understand? And because of all these things that happened, there's nothing, the United Nations is not anything when they destroy Iraq. You get it? And the other country has seen that as a lesson for them. Do you know what happened in Libya? They destroyed Libya. They are the same people that destroyed Libya. See what is happening in Libya today.
So how do you suggest, in conclusion, how do you suggest we move forward towards achieving a denuclearization so that we don't get to experience a third world war?
Yes. Thank you very much. It's very important. The United Nations, they have to really work this time around. They have to really come to the rescue of the world. They have to set up like our president has said, Dr. Edmond, that has to be a kind of a delegation from the hierarchy delegation from the United Nations that will talk to these countries that they should try to make sure that they stop all these sort of things.
All right.
And as an accord that will stop all this war power to ignore the use of the nuclear enrichment.
Okay.
So that if that can be done, the world will be free from the threat of the nuclear something, which can be a disaster end for everybody.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Lao Oladimeji. Hello. Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Olani, that's my name.
Thank you very much for joining us.
My suggestion on that view on nuclear power is that if you don't have anything to defend yourself, all those superpower will be mounting prayer, and they can decide at the time you can meet your wife and your spouse, you can decide the number of children you can have. So if anybody who has those nuclear power, you will be at your liberty to decide on your future, so that somebody can just say you should shut up here and you will not be able to react just to defend yourself, or else everyone should be destroy all the nuclear arsenal that they have on ground. So that's the suggestion, so that to avoid nuclear war.
All right. Thank you very much. Hello. Good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Femi Lawal. I'm calling from Owo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lawal.
You see, the world is entering into this crisis today as a result of our double standard. Israel has this nuclear power for a very long time, they know. America has it. The Arab countries that have it, they do everything to suppress them. Look at what happened to Saddam Hussein. You see, today they kept quiet when Israel has it. And we are entering into this crisis because of the character of the man that is in the White House today. That is why we are not able to actually measure and stop this problem that is fast becoming a global one. And when they went for the United Nations General Assembly, so already our own Muhammadu Buhari, the ancient Muhammadu Buhari at home, that was able to call the attention of world leaders that this thing should not be allowed to escalate. That the effect of their double standard. If they should be the Arab world today, they have done them, they have get them a very easy. But the punk man is coming up to taking the whole world today.
But Mr. Lawal, before Trump, we've had these tensions also. We've had the tensions during the Obama administration. We had the tensions. Even before Obama, we had the tension. Would it be fair to blame Donald Trump for these at this time?
Thank you very much. When Obama was there, this tension was and this guy was coming up. Obama, as the president, the so-called president of the world, was able to at least manage the crisis. No, Obama did not call the bomb man a rocket man. He did not use any abusive language against the man, and he did not use anything that will put the whole world in crisis. The president of the United States should learn how to at least respect other people.
But don't you think that Kim Jong-un, Mr. Lawal, don't you think that Kim Jong-un himself is sometimes overly belligerent? I mean, sometimes you think he himself is spoiling for war.
You are very correct. It is because we have two very funny characters. That's why we are having the problem. He has been a very intelligent man, but at least at the same time, the world were moving on. Obama was able to contain. Obama used dialogue to some extent. He did Trump is shouting war. The man is shouting war. This should not be allowed to turn into full-blown war.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Femi Lawal. Well, that'll be the last. This one, okay, let's take one more. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon.
Thank you for joining us. What's the name? Where you calling from?
Emmanuel from Minnesota.
Thank you, Emmanuel.
Yes. This battle has been on since the day of Obama. It's just that what really happened now, the kind of the president we are having now, it's full of temperament. Now, the other president also, is having temperament also. That is the reason why this thing is obvious now. Is clearer now that there is problem between the two. It has been on. I want to say this whole scenario started, in fact, most significantly when they destroyed Libya, and that was when the other Arab countries said we will not be looking. We need to develop. Like they used to say, Akuko Gagara. It doesn't want the other ones to come up. And that is what is happening. USA is a world power. It doesn't want other ones to come up.
Emmanuel, I mean, would it be correct to say it's after the fall of Libya? Even before Libya, even Muammar Gaddafi attempted to get nuclear weapons while he was alive. It's not because of Gaddafi.
I said significantly, this thing has been on after the fall of Saddam Hussein. There are other ones that have been done, but that one of Libya really triggered so many things. Even on
Well, Emmanuel, let's take this message on WhatsApp. No one will ever wish to what happened in Japan in 1945 and the Second World War to repeat itself again. Because still today, the attack on Hiroshima and Nagasaki is the most fatal war in human history. Maybe all the continents of the world should come together to have a peace talk. That's Teju from Elisha. Thank you very much. Well, let's move on. Let's leave the international politics scene, leave the nuclear war issue. We hope that it gets sorted out and gets sorted peacefully as soon as possible, so we can have a reduction in the tension currently pervading, especially between North Korea and the United States and some of its allies also. We'll take this music break. It's from Andy Sherman, and this song is entitled Save the Masses.
Rave 91.7 FM.